The notification lit up my phone at 2:17 a.m. I almost ignored it, rolling over in our empty king-sized bed to return to sleep. But curiosity got the better of me. Our home security system rarely sent alerts in the middle of the night. My name is Jenny Wallace, 32, a marketing director at a tech company in Boston. My husband, Nicholas, was supposedly on another of his frequent business trips to New York. 3 years of marriage, and these trips had only become more frequent in the last 6 months. What the? I muttered, squinting at my screen in the darkness. The notification was from our living room camera, the one Nicholas thought was still broken after our system glitch last month. I'd fixed it myself 3 days ago, but hadn't mentioned it to him yet. I clicked on the alert, expecting to see our cat, Jasper, knocking something over. Instead, I froze, suddenly wide awake. Nicholas was home, in our living room, and he wasn't alone. A blonde woman I'd never seen before was with him, her arms wrapped around his neck as they stumbled through the front door, laughing. The timestamp showed 2:14 a.m., just 3 minutes ago. I sat up, heart pounding, as I watched my husband lead this stranger toward our couch. The same couch where we'd spent countless evenings watching movies. Where he'd proposed to me 3 years ago. The sound was muted, but I didn't need audio to understand what I was seeing. Nicholas poured 2 glasses of the expensive whiskey he'd gotten for his 35th birthday, a gift from me. The woman took hers, threw her head back laughing at something he said, then leaned in to kiss him. My fingers trembled as I turned up the volume. Said you were single, the woman was saying, her words slightly slurred. Nicholas's reply made my stomach drop. Technically I'm married, but she's out of town for work. Boston office is having problems. He shrugged. She'll never know. The lie slid off his tongue so easily. I wasn't out of town. I was upstairs in our bedroom, wearing the pajamas he'd given me for Christmas. I watched numb, as they continued drinking and kissing on our couch. Then Nicholas stood, holding out his hand to the woman. Let me show you the bedroom. My bedroom. Our bedroom. Without thinking, I typed a message into the app. Having fun. On the screen, I watched Nicholas reach for his phone as it chimed. His face, flushed from alcohol and attraction, drained of color as he read my message. What's wrong? The blonde asked, touching his arm. Nicholas looked up at the camera in the corner of the room, the one he thought was still broken. His expression of shock would have been comical in any other situation. I sent another message. I'm upstairs. Camera's been fixed for days. The woman followed his gaze to the camera, confusion crossing her features. Nicholas? What's going on? I set my phone down, slipped on my robe, and walked calmly to our bedroom door. As I opened it, I could hear panicked voices from downstairs. You need to leave. Now. My wife. Your wife? You said she was out of town. You said. I'll explain later. Just go. Please. I stood at the top of the stairs, watching as Nicholas practically shoved the woman out the front door, whispering urgent apologies. When the door closed, he stood there for a moment, forehead pressed against it, before slowly turning to face the stairs. His eyes widened when he saw me. Beck. I can explain. Don't call me that, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Only my husband calls me that. And I don't think that's you anymore. I turned and walked back to our bedroom, locking the door behind me. Through the wood, I heard him pounding, begging me to open up, to listen. I picked up my phone and started recording his pleas. Beck, please. It was just a stupid mistake. I was drunk. It meant nothing. I turned the volume up on the security app, replaying his earlier words to the blonde woman. She'll never know. But I did know. And I would never unsee what I'd witnessed. I opened my laptop and started making a list. Bank accounts, credit cards, property. Then I sent an email to my boss requesting emergency personal leave, followed by a text to my sister, Claire. Can I stay with you for a few days? It's urgent. Her response was immediate. Of course. Everything okay? No. Itipat. But it will be. What Nicholas didn't realize was that the living room camera wasn't the only one I'd fixed, and the footage from our home office would reveal secrets far more damaging than a drunken hookup. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? My husband was passed out on our living room couch. I could see him through the security app, still in his clothes, an empty whiskey glass on the floor beside him. At 6 a.m., I packed a small bag with essentials and waited for Nicholas to shower and leave for work. He knocked on the bedroom door again before leaving. "Beck, we need to talk about this. Please." I remained silent. "I'm going to the office. I'll be back early. We can fix this, I promise." The front door closed, and I watched on the app as his car pulled out of the driveway. Only then did I emerge from the bedroom, bag in hand. I walked through our house, the beautiful colonial we'd bought together last year, with fresh eyes. Photos of us smiling on vacation, at our wedding with friends. All eyes now. In the kitchen, I found a hastily scribbled note. "I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Please let me explain tonight. I love you. N." I crumpled it and threw it away. Before heading to Claire's, I made a detour to our home office. Nicholas had been spending increasingly long hours in there over the past months, claiming work pressure. The room had a separate camera that I'd also fixed recently, and hadn't told him about. I checked the footage from the previous week, scanning through hours of recordings. Nicholas entering the office, working at his computer, making calls. Normal activities for the marketing executive he was supposed to be. But then on Tuesday night, when he'd told me he was working late, something odd caught my attention. Nicholas had brought a stack of documents into the office and was photographing them with his phone. They weren't marketing materials. They looked like financial reports. I zoomed in as much as the camera allowed. The header on the documents read, "Meridian Pharmaceuticals, Confidential." Meridian wasn't Nicholas's client. It was mine. My blood ran cold as understanding dawned. Nicholas worked for Visionary Marketing, Meridian's biggest competitor. I headed Meridian's account at my firm, ClearPath Marketing. I downloaded the footage and continued searching. Over the past month, Nicholas had photographed dozens of confidential Meridian documents. Documents I'd brought home to work on. Documents I'd trusted my husband not to look at. Corporate espionage. That's what this was. He'd been stealing my client's information and presumably passing it to his company. I felt physically ill. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. This was my career. My professional reputation. Everything I'd worked for. I called Claire. "I'm on my way," I said, voice shaking. "You sound terrible. What happened?" "I'll explain when I get there." At Claire's apartment, I broke down completely, telling her everything. The woman, the betrayal, and now the corporate spying. "That manipulative snake," Claire fumed, pouring me a strong cup of coffee. "You need to talk to your boss immediately. And a lawyer." She was right. I called Miranda, my CEO at ClearPath, and asked for an urgent meeting. Then I called the most ruthless divorce attorney in Boston, Eliza Montgomery. Miranda's face was grave when I showed her the footage in her office that afternoon. "This is a serious breach, Jenny. Meridian could sue us for negligence." "I know," I said quietly. "I'll resign if—" "Don't be ridiculous," she interrupted. "You're the victim here. But we need to get ahead of this." She picked up her phone. "Get me legal now." Over the next few hours, a plan formed. ClearPath would alert Meridian to the breach, but frame it as a security investigation that caught Nicholas's espionage. The company lawyers would handle the legal aspects, potentially building a case against Visionary Marketing. As for me, I had my own battle to prepare for. Eliza Montgomery's office was intimidatingly sleek, all glass and chrome. The woman herself matched the decor, sharp, polished, and clearly expensive. "So your husband has been stealing your client's information and cheating on you," she summarized after I explained everything. "Do you have evidence of both?" I nodded, showing her the video files on my laptop. "Excellent," she said, a predatory smile crossing her face. "Corporate espionage is a federal crime. That gives us significant leverage in divorce proceedings." She tapped her manicured nails on her desk. "He doesn't know that you know about the document theft, correct?" "No. Just about the woman." "Perfect. Here's what we're going to do." By the time I left Eliza's office, I had a comprehensive strategy. I wouldn't be returning home that night. Instead, Nicholas would receive a visit from ClearPath's lawyers and security team, who would confiscate his devices for the investigation. Only after that would he receive divorce papers, delivered to his office the following morning. I checked into a hotel using my personal credit card, then called our bank to freeze our joint accounts. As Eliza had instructed, I documented everything I'd discovered, backed up all the videos to secure cloud storage, and prepared for the storm that was coming. That night, Nicholas called my phone 17 times. I didn't answer. He sent dozens of text messages, evolving from apologetic to desperate. Please come home so we can talk. I'm sorry about last night. It was a terrible mistake. Where are you? I'm worried the security team came. What's going on? Beck, please, I love you. They took my laptop and phone. What did you tell them? Answer me. Around midnight, the text stopped. I assumed ClearPath's team had explained exactly what was happening. I stared out my hotel window at the Boston skyline, wondering how I'd missed the signs. Had I been so consumed with my own career that I'd failed to see my husband betraying me in every possible way? The next morning, I received a call from Miranda. It's done, she said. Nicholas has been placed on administrative leave at Visionary pending their investigation. Meridian is satisfied with our response and is remaining with us. Thank you, I whispered, relief flooding through me. At least my career was intact. An hour later, Eliza called to confirm the divorce papers had been delivered. His assistant said he turned white as a sheet, she reported with satisfaction. Now we wait. I didn't have to wait long. At exactly 10:32 a.m., a text came through from Nicholas. How could you do this to me? After everything we've built? We can work through this. Please don't destroy our life over one mistake. I typed back my first and only response. Which mistake? The blonde, or the federal crime? There was no immediate reply. I imagined him finally realizing the full extent of what I knew, and what he stood to lose. What Nicholas couldn't possibly know was that I had already met with his boss at Visionary Marketing, sharing not only evidence of his corporate espionage, but also proof that he had been embezzling company funds to finance a secret life that went far beyond one night with a blonde stranger. 3 days passed in a blur of legal meetings, police statements, and sleepless nights. I'd moved from Claire's apartment to a short-term rental, paid for in cash as Eliza had advised. Until we know exactly what we're dealing with, she'd said. Better safe than sorry. Nicholas's texts had grown increasingly frantic, then suddenly stopped. Claire, who'd driven past our house, reported his car was gone. The security app showed no movement inside for 48 hours. He's running, Eliza said when I told her. Good. That makes him look guilty. On the 4th day after discovering Nicholas's betrayal, I met with Eliza and Miranda for an update. The conference room at ClearPath had become our war room, with 3 legal teams working in concert. ClearPath's, Meridian's, and my personal team led by Eliza. The FBI has opened an investigation, Miranda informed us, sliding a document across the table. They've subpoenaed all of Nicholas's work records from Visionary. What about our divorce proceedings? I asked Eliza, moving forward. But there's a complication. She adjusted her glasses. We can't locate Nicholas to serve additional papers. His company says he's taken indefinite leave. His parents claim they haven't heard from him. A chill ran down my spine. Could he have left the country? Possible, Miranda nodded. But he'd have to use his passport, which would alert authorities. The FBI has flagged him in the system. There's something else, Eliza said, sliding a folder toward me. Our financial investigator found irregularities in Nicholas's personal accounts. Substantial withdrawals over the past year. Money that didn't go into your joint accounts or known expenditures. I opened the folder to find bank statements, credit card bills, and transaction records. Nicholas had been systematically moving money, over $200,000, to accounts I'd never seen before. Where was it going? I asked, flipping through the pages. Multiple recipients, Eliza explained. Some to an account in Miami under the name Nicholas Reynolds. Your husband's using his middle name as a surname. Some to a woman named Serena Daniels. The blonde? I guessed. No, Miranda interjected. Serena Daniels is a real estate agent in Miami. We had our investigator check. She sold a beachfront condo last year to Nicholas Reynolds. A second home. A second identity. My husband had been creating an escape hatch, planning his exit long before I'd caught him. There's more, Eliza continued gently. Regular payments to a woman named Mary Collins. She's 27, works as a yoga instructor in Miami. She paused, watching me carefully. Our investigator found photos on social media. They appear to be in a relationship. She handed me her tablet. On the screen was an Instagram post. Nicholas with his arm around a beautiful brunette on a Miami beach. The caption read, "Weekend vibes with my love at Nicholas Reynolds." The post was dated 6 months ago. My head spun. He has another woman? A second life in Miami? It appears so, Eliza confirmed. The condo, the relationship, the separate identity. He's been building this for at least a year. The corporate espionage makes more sense now, Miranda added. He needed money to finance his double life. I felt physically sick. The betrayal was so much deeper, so much more calculated than I'd imagined. This wasn't a drunken mistake with a random blonde. This was methodical deception on an unimaginable scale. I need to go to Miami, I said suddenly. Eliza shook her head. That's not advisable. Let the investigators handle. No. My voice was firm. I need to see it for myself. I need to look this woman in the eye and find out if she knows she's been dating a married man. A criminal. After some discussion, we compromised. I would go to Miami, but with Claire as support and one of Eliza's investigators as security. We would not confront Nicholas or Mary directly, but would gather information to strengthen my case. 2 days later, Claire and I checked into a hotel in South Beach, a few blocks from the address we had for Nicholas's condo. The investigator, Marcus, had arrived earlier and was already conducting surveillance. He's there, Marcus confirmed by phone. With the woman. They appear to be packing. He's planning to run again, Claire said, squeezing my hand. Not this time, I replied, a cold determination settling over me. The next morning, I positioned myself in a cafe across from Nicholas's building. Marcus had confirmed the couple's routine. Breakfast at home, then a walk on the beach around 10 a.m. Sure enough, at 10:15, Nicholas emerged from the building with Mary. He looked different, more tanned, hair styled differently, designer sunglasses. He wore linen pants and a loose shirt, nothing like the suits he wore in Boston. This was a completely different version of my husband. Mary was striking, tall and athletic, with long dark hair pulled into a ponytail. She held Nicholas's hand as they crossed the street, laughing at something he said. I followed at a distance, heart pounding. They walked to a beachside cafe and took a table facing the ocean. I found a spot nearby, hidden behind a large potted palm, close enough to hear their conversation. The realtor called about the Barbados property. Mary was saying, "We need to move quickly if we want it." I know, Nicholas replied, sounding stressed. Things are complicated right now. I may need to leave the country sooner than planned. Because of the Boston situation? My breath caught. She knew about Boston. About me. Yeah, Nicholas sighed. It's a mess. But once we're set up in Barbados, no one can touch us. The money's already transferred offshore. What about your wife? Mary asked, her voice dropping. Nicholas's laugh was cold. Jenny? She's probably still crying in her sister's apartment, waiting for me to beg forgiveness. She has no idea about any of this. I felt Claire's hand on my shoulder. She had joined me when the conversation turned to me. Her grip tightened, keeping me from doing something rash. By the time she figures anything out, Nicholas continued, we'll be long gone. Besides, she signed those investment papers without reading them. Everything's in my name now. My blood turned to ice. Investment papers? I remembered signing a stack of documents Nicholas had prepared 6 months ago. Something about diversifying our portfolio. I'd trusted him completely with our finances. I almost feel bad for her, Mary mused. 3 years of marriage and she never suspected? Jenny sees what she wants to see, Nicholas shrugged. Too busy with her career to notice her husband had checked out. It made everything easier. I'd heard enough. I slipped away, Claire following close behind. Back at the hotel, I called Eliza and relayed everything I'd overheard. Her response was immediate. Get back to Boston now. We need to stop any property transfers immediately. We caught the next flight home. The entire time, all I could think about were Nicholas's words. Jenny sees what she wants to see. He was right. I had been blind. Not because I was too career-focused, but because I'd loved and trusted him completely. Never again. As our plane landed in Boston, I received a text from Marcus. NNV just boarded flight to Barbados. ETA 4 hours. I forwarded it to Eliza with a simple message. Stop them. What Nicholas failed to realize was that his elaborate escape plan had one fatal flaw. He'd used company funds for his offshore accounts, and I wasn't the only one who could access the evidence trail that would freeze every dollar before his plane even touched down in Barbados. The next 24 hours were the most intense of my life. Eliza mobilized her legal team like a general commanding troops, filing emergency injunctions, alerting federal authorities about Nicholas's flight, and freezing every account we could identify. The FBI has contacted Barbadian authorities, she reported during our midnight strategy session at her office. They'll be detained upon landing. Detained, not arrested? I asked, clutching my fourth cup of coffee. Barbados doesn't have an extradition treaty for financial crimes, Eliza explained. But they'll hold them while evidence is prepared. Your testimony this morning was crucial. I had spent 6 hours with FBI agents, walking them through everything I'd discovered, from the security footage to the Miami condo to the conversation I'd overheard. They were particularly interested in Nicholas's reference to investment papers I'd signed. With my authorization, agents had seized additional documents from our home office, documents I'd never closely examined. What they found was staggering. He created a shell company in your name, the lead agent explained, showing me the paperwork. Then transferred most of your joint assets to it. On paper, you controlled the company, making you liable for any illegal activities. Meanwhile, he set up offshore accounts only he could access. The betrayal was so complete, so carefully orchestrated, that I couldn't even cry anymore. This wasn't just a husband cheating. This was a con artist who had targeted me, married me, and spent years setting me up as both victim and potential fall person for his crimes. At 5 a.m., Eliza received confirmation. Nicholas and Mary had been detained in Barbados. Their passports had been confiscated pending investigation. He's calling for you, the FBI agent said, holding out a phone. We've recorded the call already, but he's demanding to speak with you directly. I took a deep breath and accepted the phone. Hello, Nicholas. Beck. His voice was tight with controlled panic. This is all a misunderstanding. You need to tell them. Tell them what? I interrupted calmly. That you weren't stealing corporate secrets? That you haven't been living a double life in Miami? That you didn't set me up to take the fall for your financial crimes? Silence, then. I never meant to hurt you. A laugh escaped me. A sound so bitter I barely recognized it as my own. You meant to rob me, frame me, and disappear with your girlfriend. Hurting me was just collateral damage. It wasn't like that at the beginning, he insisted. I loved you. Things just changed. When? I demanded. When exactly did you decide to turn our marriage into an elaborate con? He hesitated. You wouldn't understand. The pressure, the expectations. I needed an out. And now you have one. Prison. Beck, please. I'll give back everything. I'll make it right. Just tell them. I cut him off. Goodbye, Nicholas. Enjoy Barbados while you can. I hear federal prison isn't quite as scenic. I handed the phone back to the agent, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. For the first time in a week, I felt like I could breathe again. By noon, the news had broken. Marketing executive arrested for corporate espionage and fraud ran across the bottom of every local news channel. Nicholas's company, Visionary Marketing, released a statement distancing themselves from his actions and pledging full cooperation with authorities. ClearPath, meanwhile, had positioned me as the whistleblower who had uncovered the scheme. Miranda's PR team had crafted the narrative carefully, protecting both me and the company's reputation. The press wants an interview. Miranda told me when I stopped by the office that afternoon. You don't have to do it. I want to, I said firmly. On my terms. The interview was scheduled for the following morning. I spent the night at Claire's, preparing what I would say, how I would present myself. This wasn't just about Nicholas anymore. This was about reclaiming my story, my identity. I chose my outfit carefully. A structured blue dress that projected confidence and strength. Claire did my makeup, making sure I looked polished but not overdone. You want to appear resilient, not bitter, she advised. The interview took place at ClearPath's offices, with Miranda present for support. The reporter, a respected journalist from the Boston Globe, asked thoughtful questions about how I'd discovered Nicholas's scheme. I noticed discrepancies in some documents, I explained, sticking to the script Eliza and Miranda had approved. As a marketing professional, I'm trained to pay attention to details. When I brought my concerns to company leadership, they immediately launched an investigation. How did it feel to discover your husband was involved in corporate espionage? The reporter asked. I met her gaze steadily. Devastating. I trusted him completely. But I also knew I had an ethical obligation to my client and my company. And now that he's facing federal charges? Now I'm focused on rebuilding. This experience has taught me the importance of vigilance, in business and in personal relationships. The article published the next day was respectful and balanced. It portrayed me as a professional who had made the difficult choice to come forward despite personal cost. The online comments were overwhelmingly supportive, with many praising my courage. That afternoon, Eliza called with an update. Nicholas is being extradited back to the United States. He'll face arraignment next week. And the assets? We've located most of them. The offshore accounts are frozen. The Miami property is being seized as evidence. It will take time, but I'm confident we'll recover a significant portion of your money. And Mary, being investigated as a potential accomplice, though she claims she didn't know about the corporate espionage. Just the affair. I thought about the conversation I'd overheard in Miami. Mary had known about me, about the Boston situation. Whether she'd known the full extent of Nicholas's crimes remained to be seen. 1 week after the news broke, I returned to work at ClearPath. My colleagues greeted me with quiet support. No dramatic gestures, just simple acknowledgement that I was back and moving forward. Miranda had handled the transition perfectly, ensuring I could step back into my role with dignity. Meridian, my client, had requested me specifically for their upcoming campaign. We trust your integrity, their CEO told me during our first meeting. You've proven that beyond any doubt. As I settled back into my office, I found a small package on my desk. Inside was a key and a note from Miranda. For when you're ready, take the time you need. The key belonged to a company condo in the Back Bay, a temporary residence until I decided what to do about housing. My house with Nicholas held too many memories, too many lies. I would sell it as soon as legally possible. That evening, I stood in the empty condo, looking out over the Charles River as the sun set. The space was neutral, impersonal, a blank canvas. For the first time since discovering the camera footage, I felt a sense of possibility rather than loss. My phone chimed with a text from Claire. Saw the interview. You were amazing. Dinner tomorrow? I smiled and replied, absolutely. My treat. Then I opened my email to find a message from Eliza with the subject line, settlement proposal. Nicholas's lawyers were offering a deal. He would plead guilty to reduce charges in exchange for cooperation with the federal investigation into visionary marketing. I forwarded it to Eliza with a simple response, no deals. What Nicholas would soon discover was that I had declined the settlement not out of vengeance, but because the FBI had offered me immunity and a substantial reward as a whistleblower, ensuring that while he lost everything, I would emerge from his betrayal not just whole, but financially independent in ways he could never have imagined. 6 months later, I stood at the back of a packed courtroom, watching as Nicholas was led away in handcuffs. He had aged a decade in half a year, his once immaculate appearance now haggard, his confident posture replaced by defeated slouch. The judge had sentenced him to 8 years in federal prison for corporate espionage, wire fraud, and money laundering. The evidence against him had been overwhelming, thanks in large part to my testimony and the documentation I'd provided. Mary had cut a deal early, testifying against Nicholas in exchange for probation. She'd forfeited her claim to any assets and returned to her family in Arizona, her Miami dream shattered. As Nicholas passed me on his way out, our eyes met briefly. I saw recognition, then shame, before he looked away. No words were exchanged. There was nothing left to say. Outside the courthouse, reporters clustered around Eliza and me. "Ms. Wallace, how do you feel about the verdict?" someone called out. I took a measured breath before responding. Justice has been served. Now I'm focused on the future. "Any comment on the whistleblower reward?" another asked. Eliza stepped in smoothly. "Ms. Wallace's cooperation with federal authorities reflects her commitment to ethical business practices. The financial settlement is a matter of public record, but we won't be discussing specifics today." The specifics were substantial. As the primary whistleblower in the case against Visionary Marketing, I had received a reward of $1.7 million. Combined with the recovered assets from Nicholas's schemes and the sale of our Boston house, I was financially secure in a way I'd never expected to be at 32. But the money wasn't what mattered most. It was the vindication, the knowledge that I'd done the right thing despite the personal cost. Back at my new apartment, a modern loft in Cambridge I'd purchased outright, I kicked off my heels and poured a glass of champagne. Claire would be arriving soon for our celebration dinner, along with Miranda and a few close colleagues who had supported me throughout the ordeal. I opened my laptop to check emails before they arrived. Among the usual work correspondence was a message that made me pause. From Serena.Daniels@MiamiLuxuryRealty.com. Subject: "Thank you, Ginny. You don't know me, but I'm the real estate agent who sold your husband the Miami condo. I've been following the case and wanted to reach out. Nicholas approached me about selling the condo last month, before his assets were frozen. He told me his wife was handling the sale because he was traveling for work. He had a woman pose as you on a video call. I now know that was Mary. When I saw the news about his arrest, I immediately contacted the FBI. I wanted you to know I had no idea I was participating in fraud, and I'm relieved justice has been served. The real reason I'm writing: Nicholas mentioned other properties during our conversations. Properties not in the U.S. You might want to have your legal team look into real estate in Belize and Panama. Just a hunch, but it might help recover more of what he stole from you. Wishing you all the best, Serena." I forwarded the email to Eliza immediately, then sat back thinking. Even now, Nicholas's deceptions continued to unfold. How many more properties, accounts, or lies would surface in the coming months? But for the first time, the discoveries didn't devastate me. Each new revelation only confirmed that walking away had been the right decision, and made me grateful for the security camera that had started it all. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. Claire arrived with a bouquet of sunflowers and a fierce hug. "It's finally over," she said, stepping back to examine my face. "How are you really feeling?" I considered the question carefully. "Lighter. Like I can breathe again." Miranda arrived next, followed by my team from ClearPath. The conversation flowed easily, deliberately avoiding the topic of Nicholas and the trial. Instead, we discussed the agency's upcoming projects, Claire's new job offer, weekend plans. Normal life. It had seemed impossible 6 months ago. After dinner, as we sat around my living room with coffee and dessert, Miranda raised her glass. "To Jenny, who reminded us all what integrity looks like. And to new beginnings," Claire added. I smiled, clinking my glass against theirs. "To seeing clearly." Later, after everyone had left, I stood on my balcony watching the Cambridge streets below. My phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry for everything. I never deserved you. And Nicholas must have found a way to message me from prison." I deleted the text without responding. His apologies meant nothing now, too little too late. The next morning, I woke early for my regular run along the Charles River. 6 months ago, I'd barely been able to function. Now I had a routine, a purpose, a rebuilt life. At work, I discovered I'd been promoted to Executive Creative Director, a position I'd once thought was years away. "Your handling of the Meridian account during the crisis was exceptional," Miranda explained. "The board voted unanimously." That weekend, I visited our old house one final time before the new owners took possession. The realtor had cleared out the last of the furniture, leaving empty rooms that echoed with my footsteps. In the living room, I looked up at the corner where the security camera had been, the one that had changed everything. If it hadn't started working again, if I hadn't checked the footage that night, how much longer would Nicholas's deception have continued? I took a final walk through each room, saying goodbye not just to the house but to the woman I'd been there, trusting, naive, blind to the betrayal happening right in front of me. In the master bedroom, I noticed something caught in the heating vent, a small piece of paper. I knelt to retrieve it, finding a faded receipt. It was for a jewelry store in Miami, dated 2 years ago, 1 year into our marriage. The item purchased, a diamond pendant. I'd never received a diamond pendant from Nicholas. I pocketed the receipt, not because it mattered to the case. Nicholas was already convicted, but as a reminder that even when we think we know someone completely, we may only be seeing what they want us to see. Outside, spring sunshine warmed my face as I closed the door on my old life for the last time. I didn't need security cameras anymore to show me the truth. I had found something more valuable through this ordeal, an unwavering trust in myself. That evening, I received an email from Eliza. Belize property located. Paperwork underway to recover assets. Well done. I smiled and closed my laptop. There would always be more discoveries, more untangling of Nicholas's web. But they no longer defined me. The broken security camera that Nicholas thought would hide his betrayal had instead revealed not just his true character, but my own strength. In trying to destroy me, he had inadvertently freed me from illusions, from financial dependence, from a marriage built on lies. I opened the balcony doors of my new home, letting in the cool evening air. From the ashes of betrayal, I had built something better, something real, something entirely mine. And no one would ever take that from me again.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.